So by all accounts, 2017 wasn't the busiest year for me. Due to some personal circumstances, I had a really slow start to the year, but things started to pick up. I got back in the groove of things. 2018, I suspect I will be back in full overdrive, doing concerts non-stop. But trust me, I had more than enough stuff, and it was very difficult for me to narrow it down to my favorite shots of 2017. So I'm just going to jump right into it. The first shot is of Scott Bennett of The Path Less Traveled. Those guys are super nice guys. I've managed to work with them a few times throughout the year. This photograph was when they were opening for I Prevail. They've opened for a numerous amount of bands this year, done a lot of great stuff. But this is one of my favorite shots because when I shoot bands over and over again, sometimes I find that I'm getting very similar images, so I try to push myself in a different direction. In this case, definitely shooting in mind, not for black and white, but just sort of for a sepia tone, and it worked really well. It was a really kind of fog coming up and lights and the angle and all that kind of stuff, and this makes this shot number 10. So number 9 is a shot of Jeff Martin of the Tea Party. I was lucky enough to shoot them when they came through. The Tea Party is one of my favorite bands of all time. I'm a huge fan. I love their music. A great group of guys. I wish I got better shots from this concert. Unfortunately, this was one of those shows where there wasn't a barrier for me to operate in, so I was very much stuck in one position. So when that happens as a photographer and you're kind of stuck in the crowd, number one, you have to deal with a bunch of heads to shoot over. You're not necessarily getting the best position, but the position you have is the position you have because you're typically not going to move very far and you can't adjust quickly to adjust the camera angles. But I was lucky enough to get this photograph of Jeff. It just worked out really well. The angle, the TVs in the background. I love to basically, when I shoot these guys, make them black and white images. It's just my favorite way to sort of capture them, and I always shoot with that in mind. So my only regret is that I couldn't really move around. So a lot of times I can't change lenses because there's danger of getting them dropped, knocked out of your hands by the crowd because these people are just enjoying the concert. So unfortunately in this go around I wasn't able to get some good shots of the drummer, Jeff Burrows, but I know they'll be back through again. They are great guys. Doesn't matter how many times they come, I always love photographing these guys. So my 8th favorite photograph is a photograph I took of July Talk's lead singer Leah Faye. They are always very entertaining to photograph, and again, they're one of those groups that I feel lends themselves to black and white photography. I've photographed them in numerous different venues for different occasions, everything from the Coca-Cola Secret Show to McEwen Hall to the Calgary Stampede. And this particular image was taken at the Calgary Stampede. So I always find them very interesting because there is an interesting dynamic between Leah and Peter, and it always lends itself to good photographs, especially when they're interacting. But this one in particular, Leah came very close to the front of the stage. In fact, she was on the monitors at the front and sort of crouching down. So I just kind of like the intensity. She is a great performer, always great to photograph, and that's why this photograph earns the number 8 spot. So my number 7 image is that of Shane Volk of One Bad Son. Again, I lean towards black and white photography. I find them to be much more stronger images. I just like how black and white looks, and this is what I've done with this. In this case, Shane was crouching down on a box that he used to stand up and address the crowd and sort of crumpled himself into a ball, so it was all nice and tight, and I was, inches away. So it was a different shot rather than a wider shot that you see of concerts or anything. It's just a very tight shot, a very intimate shot, and that's why this photograph is number 7. So the number 6 shot goes to Josh Ramsey of Marianas Trench. These guys are always a bundle of fun to photograph. Josh is an incredibly charismatic frontman. He expresses himself very well, and he's just very dynamic. I was lucky enough to photograph them during the Junos a couple years ago. They're back here now, and why I picked this photograph and mainly was because of the color. The color, it just happened to be perfectly outlined. It's a great array of rainbow colors, just a nice stark contrast. The thing is, a lot of times when you shoot dead on, the microphone stand is in the way. In this case, it is a little bit in the way, but you get enough of his face that I felt it wasn't a total hindrance, and that's why this shot earns number 6. All right, we're at number 5. We're halfway through the list, and at this point, we have a Swedish band by the name of Avatar and their lead singer, Johannes Eckerström. They have a crazy looking dynamic, almost Crow-like, if you remember Brandon Lee in the Crow sort of makeup, dressed up as a ringmaster. Very, very theatrical and very, very large movements when they're doing it. Great color, great lighting, and again, you know, color lends perfect to this because it is such a cool dynamic. So that's why this image earns its place at number 5. Moving on to number 4. My fourth favorite image was an image that I didn't even know that I was going to capture that night. I had gone out, I was photographing Tool, I was there for that, I was there early, and as far as I knew, that's all I was doing for photography wise. That's when basically security came up and they indicated to me that I was heading down to photograph the Crystal Method. So, of course, taking advantage of the opportunities given to me, I went down and managed to capture this shot. The Crystal Method, because of the drums and sort of the setup, you're very limited in what you can do. So this was an image that was captured basically out of patience, just waiting for the right time. A lot of the time he's working down on the keyboard, so you can't even see his face, you can't see anything. Every once in a while he pops up. So this was just a matter of patience, waiting for the time and making sure that when the opportunity arose, and there wasn't many of them, that I was able to capture the image. Basically, I love this image because of the drums and it's sort of the way it circles and the fact that he's up there pointing to the crowd. So that is why this has earned number 4. So my number 3 shot goes to the bassist of In This Moment, Travis Johnson. This shoot in particular was very difficult because of the amount of backlight. And as you can see in this image, there is a good portion of it that is very, very bright. And then it goes completely dark. But because of the smoke, because of the light, because of the colors, it all seems to work. And the fact that he's very much in focus, the colors work really well. If you zoom in on the image, you can see the color of his eyes actually matches the background of the smoke, and it just lends really, really well to the image. And that's why this earned place number 3. So moving on to number 2, this was one of my bucket list bands that I love to photograph. I love photographing the Red Hot Chilli Peppers. They are awesome. And this go around of the tour, they had basically a floor that was gloss. It had a nice shine with the lights. And because of Flea and his great colors and the way he dresses and the way the light hit him in this one, I was able to capture sort of the perfect reflection of him into the floor. Very, very much like a studio shot, but honest to God, live concert, live performance. It just worked out really, really well. He was perfectly there. I couldn't ask for better lighting if I had set it up myself. And of course, Red Hot Chili Peppers, how can you go wrong? So Flea earns the number 2 spot for this year. So that just leaves us with one image to go. And my favorite image of the year goes to this shot of Tim McIlrath of Rise Against. Now, in this case, there's a little bit of a story as well. A lot of times when you do concert photography, if you haven't worked with a band before, it is always good to watch live video. It's always good to see potentially other photographs to just sort of get an idea of what the performance is going to entail. And that's what happened here. Rise Against, Tim McIlrath likes to get airborne. And I knew that, so basically I spent a lot of time in the pit, sort of within a small area, waiting for that moment. Seeing him step on the riser, knowing that at that moment he could essentially jump off. So I was waiting for that opportune moment. I was waiting for Tim to get up on the riser and anticipating his jump, because you want to catch somebody not jumping or coming down, you want to catch them sort of at that midpoint. So timing is absolutely everything, and being in the right place. So through looking at the footage, looking at other photos, I pretty much knew or had a really good idea of which way he was going to jump off, and I'm going to tell you right now, the research, especially in this case, pays off. So I managed to catch Tim, full jump, full crouch, talking, pointing. It was the shot of the concert. I was really happy with it. I was excited when it happened because I was anticipating it was going to happen. So sometimes your hard work pays off. So that's why this image, for me, earns the #1 spot. So that's it. That's my top 10 images for 2017. I'm looking forward to 2018. Hopefully you've enjoyed some of these images that I enjoyed capturing throughout the year. I'm looking forward to a busier 2018. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if there's anything that you guys want to talk about or hear me talk about or discuss, or anything that you want to hear, from techniques to gear or whatever I use. Just leave a comment below, and then next time, see ya.